Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, addicts of all ages, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you're here with us. What is determination? Well, many people will have different things to describe determination, but my next guest had the determination and will to change her life for the better. And that guest is Mel. Welcome to the show, Mel.
Thank you very much for having me, Doug. I really appreciate this.
No worries. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for being a part of our family. Can you tell the world that has no idea who Mel is? Who's Mel?
My name is Mel, and I am a grateful recovering addict. You know, I have struggled with addiction probably for the last decade or more. I came from a good home. I had a roof over my head. I had, food on the table. I had loving parents, but I just had this anger and this inside of me. My parents divorced when I was super young. I was super close to my dad. And when they divorced, I felt like, first off, my life had just crumbled to the ground. I felt like my dad divorced me as well.
Wow.
So I carried a lot of anger, and I projected that anger at my mom for a super, super long time. I was not only angry with her, I was just angry with everyone. And I'm a bottler, so I would bottle all that anger and all of those feelings for a super, super long time. I didn't become an addict overnight. I was actually in my late 20s, and I had dabbled in things here and there, but I had something really tragic happen to me. I had a boyfriend of mine commit suicide, and I didn't know how to process and deal with that. I had 2 little boys at home. At the time, they were 1 and 4. Although he was not their father, he was very much present in their life. And, I had dabbled in some stuff with him here and there. And I remember when I did that, that feeling of not feeling, not that anger and all of those things. I had bottled up all that emotion. It was gone. And when he took his own life, I turned to drugs. And because I didn't want to feel, I was dying inside, I was hurting, I was trying to figure out how I was going to take care of these 2 little boys, how I was going to go to work, how I was going to do all these things, and I turned to drugs. And, I didn't think that I would ever become an addict, ever. And I didn't think I had that addictive personality, but it turns out I do. And, my addiction went from nothing to it was crazy, to be honest. My whole life came crashing down. Everything that I had built up, I was slowly losing, because the only thing in my mind was, let's get more. How can I get more? What can I do to get more? And, my boys that, I love with all of my heart got very much put on the back burner. And it wasn't because I didn't love them. I love them with every fiber in me. It was just, I was so consumed by my addiction that I didn't know how to stop. And I tried many times. I tried to go to treatment centers. I tried to go to detox. I tried all these things, but I was doing it at that time for the wrong reasons. I was doing it for my family. I was doing it for my kids. I was doing it for everyone else but myself. So I failed. I failed miserably. And my boys ended up going into Children's Aid. I signed them into Children's Aid because I wasn't able to continue to take care of them, you know, and I just fell apart, you know. I had lost my boyfriend, and now my 2 kids, I didn't have them with me anymore, and my life just continued to go in this tornado. And I gave up. I gave up on myself. I gave up on them. I gave up. And I ended up losing custody of my children. They were 4 and 7 at the time. They ended up getting adopted to a family. They were together, you know, and I guess in my head, I just thought that somebody wants to love and care for these boys that I'm not able to do right now. And I gave up, you know, and my life continued to just spiral and spiral. I ended up moving away from Barrie, where I live, because I thought you know, if I move, then that'll fix me, right? And I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. My daughter is 10 now. And when I found out that I was pregnant with her, I just stopped. I don't know how, I stopped. And I stopped for a super long time. And like, I am the type of addict that even though I stopped doing, you know, my drug of choice, all of those like reasons why I was doing that in the first place were still all inside me. So like, I was like one of those people that I put a smile on my face, but I was dying inside. Because at the time I wasn't going to get the proper help. I wasn't going to do the things that I needed to do to be able to heal myself inside, you know. So now take away the drugs, and like now I feel like I've failed as a mom, I've failed as a partner, like, and I did that for several years. I would go to recovery things here and there. I feel like I was not doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it to like show face or to like show my family that, hey, like, you know. And eventually I was able to do that for 8 years. And then I got into a relationship that was a very unhealthy relationship. There was a lot of physical and emotional abuse, and I ended up going back out. And that literally destroyed me, you know. I never thought in my life that I would be a person that relapse would be part of my story, but I come to terms with it that relapse can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how many days or weeks or years that you have clean, you know, relapse can happen. And if you know, stop doing certain things, or in my case, not really doing anything, it's bound to happen. And I was in active addiction again for 9 months, and all of those things again, like, you know, the work, like my work was interfering with my drug use, doing fun things with my child was interfering with my drug use, like everything, like it was like I never skipped a beat. Like my addiction picked up where it left off 8 years prior, and like all of the things that I lost back then were starting to happen again. And you know, eventually I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was 97 pounds at the time. And I said, what am I doing? Like, I was disgusted at the person that was looking back at me. And I decided that it was either, you know, I get clean and sober and I figure this thing out and I really put my 2 feet in to do this, or I'm going to take my own life because I couldn't live like that anymore. And, you know, I called a detox, and I got myself into detox, and the detox I got myself into had a treatment center in there, so I was able to stay there for almost a month, and I did it for me, which was a huge thing. You know, I didn't do it for my daughter. You know, in the end, yes, I did it for everyone else, but I was really doing it for myself. And I think that's the hugest thing of why I'm sitting here today, clean and sober, is because I'm continuing to do this for me. And, you know, I got out of that treatment center and, you know, I started going to recovery meetings. I started, you know, associating with people that were sober. You know, I started doing all of the things that I wasn't doing before, you know, and I just started to feel like this little bit of peace. You know, I really started working on myself, and all of those things that I kept in this bottle because I'm a bottler, I started to work on, and I started to get them out, and I started to share them with, you know, another person. And every little bit of stuff I got out of this bottle, I just like felt that, like that little bit of relief and that peace. And, you know, my sobriety date is March 4th, 2022. So I just celebrated 2 years. Thank you. And, you know, this last 2 years hasn't been easy. I'm not going to say that. You know, a lot of things have happened, and my closest friend in sobriety, I was about 6 months clean and sober, and I lost him to this disease, and that rocked my world once again. But because I had this foundation that I never had before, I didn't have to go and pick up and use. Because of it, I was able to get through that, and I was able to, you know, continue on doing what I was doing. And like, I very much today live one day at a time. You know, I feel like I can't change yesterday. Tomorrow's not even here yet. So if I can just try to be the best version of myself and, you know, put my head on my pillow clean and sober today, like I'm good with that. You know, I do a lot of service in the community. I feel like if I don't keep my 2 feet in and I don't keep recovery at the top of my list, that I will slowly start to lose all those things again. And, you know, I've went through a lot in my life, but I feel like now all of that was meant to happen for a reason. And I always say that, you know, if I can tell my story 1,000,000 times or 1,000 times, and it's just that one person that's going through the same thing that I went through, or, you know, they can identify with like those feelings of just like, you know, hating the world and feeling not good enough and like all of that stuff, then it was worth it. You know, my story to me is not an easy one to tell. Who wants to sit here and admit that, you know, they were so consumed that they lost their children because of their addiction? Nobody wants to do that, but it's the reality, you know. It's the reality of what addiction and alcoholism can do to somebody. You know, the things that I did while I was in active addiction, I would never think of doing while I'm clean and sober. You know, and I think that people need to realize that this can happen to anyone. It's not anything that anyone did. It can happen. It's just what you're gonna do, you know, to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or like, what are you gonna do to stay clean and sober today? So, I don't know.
That was you have a very inspiring story. At least I think so, and I know a lot of other people will think that too. Do you have any somewhat relation with your 2 boys today?
I do have a relationship with my two boys. They are 15 and 19.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, 16 and 19. Holy, wait, 17 and 20. Oh my gosh, I feel so old now. Yeah, they just turned 17 and 20.
Wow.
I do, but that is a complicated situation. Unfortunately, both of my kids struggle from addiction issues, which is hard, you know. But at least they know that I'm there if they need me. And I'm clean and sober today, and I'm able to show up for them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the most important thing. I'm able to show up if they need me.
Yeah, good for you. That's amazing. You know, stories like this are never easy. They're never easy to talk about. They're never easy to tell. Like you when you were sharing, I could feel it in your voice, and your eyes are kind of like welding up a little bit with tears, and to me that shows me that you're on the right path and you're doing the right things to stay sober, because you have so many things in your life that mean the most to you, like your kids. And you know, if people could rewrite history, then they would, right? But you are where you are, and you're building from that. And some of the things you're doing, you're building. You mentioned service. You're doing a lot of service, and I really respect that, and I appreciate that. Service is one of the core things that has kept me sober for a really long time. You do some work with a charity called the 705.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit what the 705 is, and what are you doing there? You're doing something coming up. What are you doing?
So the 705 is a non-profit organization in Barrie. They help people with mental health and addiction issues. They have workshops there. They also have meetings. It has been a huge part of my journey. And they do something that's called the 24-hour window every year. And what that is for 24 hours, 4 individuals get into a window with absolutely nothing. And
like we're talking clothes, right?
Well,
like,
yeah, we got clothes on, but like I'm talking like nothing else but your clothes,
okay.
Right? And people can come there and they can either like reward you. So some of the rewards are, you know, they could get you an air mattress or let you brush your teeth or even a meal.
Wow.
But then they can also come and they can prank you. So they could throw a pie in your face. They could make you wear a silly costume and go down Dunlop Street. There's so many different things. And all of the money raised from this helps keep the doors at the 705 open.
Wow.
So that they can continue to offer meetings and they continue to offer workshops. And it hasn't been officially announced yet, but I do get the pleasure of being in one of those windows this year.
Right on.
So I'm super excited about that, you know, and I'm just excited to give back. And because I hold this place so close to my heart, like I'm pretty well willing to do almost anything for donations. So this is happening on June 29th in Barrie, 56 Dunlop Street West. So if anybody wants to come out and reward or prank me, I'm completely down for that. You can also go on their website, the 705 Barrie. And all the information is going to be coming up there, and you know, by the time this airs, it'll already be on there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing place, and
and when does it start? Like what time of the day does it start?
So it starts at 8 a.m. on June 29th, June 29th, and I have to stay in this window until the following day at 8 a.m.
Wow.
So
okay.
I did have the pleasure last year of being one of the people in the window, and I got voted in and nominated again this year to do that. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
That's so cool. So June 29th.
June 29th.
What day is that? A Saturday?
Saturday, yes.
Saturday, June 29th. If you're in the Barrie area, head down to downtown.
Downtown
to
Barrie.
the 705 and see Mel in a window. Throw a pie in her face.
Please do.
Do something. It's a good cause, and it's going to help people stay sober, and it's going to help people's mental health.
Yeah.
You mentioned something when you're in your share that this can affect anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen firefighters, police officers, doctors, lawyers. The list goes on.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the misconceptions of alcoholism or drug addiction or, you know, mental health, is that this can happen to anybody, right?
It can.
Why do you think, in your opinion, why do you think like this is misunderstood?
I think because when people, you know, if somebody comes from maybe a good upbringing or something, maybe that shouldn't happen, you know? And if somebody comes from like a rough upbringing, maybe their parents were, you know, addicts or alcoholics, you know, that person, they're probably going to be one of those. But like, it honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, I've had so many people look at me and, you know, can't believe that I once, you know, was an active using addict. And that's all my life revolved around. But addiction, alcoholism does not discriminate. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, you know, it can happen, you know, and
I think because today, more than say like 20 years ago, there's more things out there for the public to get addicted to, and I'm addicted to many things like naps and Perrier. But what's your thoughts on? My thought is, okay, in Collingwood alone, we have 9 pot shops, 9 weed shops. Where before necessarily, like if you had like say like a dealer or something like that, you'd go get your fix off that.
Yeah.
Now you can just walk into a store and go and buy it over the counter. Do you think this is a good thing or this is a bad thing coming in the future?
I think this is bad because you're like saying that it's okay, right? And for an addict like me, eventually that's not going to be enough, right? I'm going to want more, and I'm going to want something better than that.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just opening up another can of worms. And I just feel, like they're opening up.
It's crazy. I don't understand it, you know, in a sense, but maybe it's not for me to understand.
Yeah.
I feel like in the next like 20 years, we're going to have so many more people than normal in recovery rooms and trying to wean off stuff and get help. Before we wrap this up, I want you to talk to the little Mel sitting at home right now, or talk to, you know, maybe there's a grandmother or grandfather or parents out there who are struggling, or maybe they have kids that are struggling themselves. What can they do on a daily basis to have what you have?
That's a hard question. I think that you need to, first off, you need to want it, right? Like, you need to want to be different. You need to want to be clean and sober. And it's possible. Like, you know, there's so many different resources out there and so many different people wanting to help you. And, you know, you just need to want it. And, you know, sobriety can be for anybody. Like, it really can. You know, you just need to want it.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of people will be sitting there right now. I know people that are probably watching the show when it airs is is sitting there and saying, like, you know, I'm not an addict. You know, I'm not that bad yet, Mel.
Yet
like,
is the key word.
Yeah, right? So the key is what I understand is you're saying, you know, there's tons of places out there you can go and get help.
Yeah.
You can go to the 705.
You can come to the 705. I will be there.
Yeah, there's tons of treatment centers around that you can go and you can get help. There's phone numbers that you can call and get help and point people in the right direction. So when it comes to Mel,
yes.
What does Mel do on a daily basis to stay sober?
You know, I have certain readings that I do every single day. You know, I try to reach out to people. I try to just live one day at a time. And, you know, I like this version of me. And I just want to, you know, continue to be as positive as I possibly can. You know, I've realized that I can't change the past. The past is in the past. I can only, you know, worry about what's in front of me. And, you know, my recovery is at the top of my list. And I feel as long as I keep my recovery at the top of my list, everything else will fall into place.
That's awesome. You're doing such amazing things in your life. You're doing such amazing things for other people. You sponsor other people. I'm sure this talk today is going to help so many people. I know it. I believe it. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe it. So I just want to thank you for being on Canadian Sober A.
Thank you.
It's so great to hear you, to hear your story, and it's definitely going to inspire so many people. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks everybody for joining us on Canadian Sober A. So glad you were joining us. I just said that twice in a row. That's okay. We'll do this again next week. See you guys later. Bye-bye.